Welcome back, Faith in Motion. Today, guys, we're going to go through some interesting footage, interesting evidence, my guys, evidence that the Bible and the stories and the history of it is real. Let's go. Welcome to Faith in Motion, where modern minds meet timeless truths, where we keep it real, whether coaching, directing, or mentoring young minds, fostering marriage and relationships. It's all about becoming stronger, wiser, and ultimately drawing closer to God. We're tackling everything from life's tough lessons to building character, issues in the world, relationships, and a rock-solid faith. Let's get moving to becoming the kings and the queens we were born to be, because faith without action is just talk. So let's put our faith in motion. All right, guys, the first video that we're going to be watching, the first footage, is a description of the story of Moses and the camp of Israel when they left Egypt from being in slavery for 400 years. Moses is given the 10 Commandments by God on this mountain. And in the Bible, it says that God himself came down in a cloud. And the Bible also explains that God is a consuming fire, right? And so when God came down in the cloud, obviously with the lightning that the Bible says and the heat, something would have burned. And when you go to that area today of Saudi Arabia, where specifically where the Bible trails you to, there's only one mountain that has burnt rocks all over it. The tip of the mountain is burnt, and all the other mountains surrounding it is not burnt. Today when you go there, the Bible is real, my friends. And then also the story of Moses when he hits a huge rock and water gushes through the rock. It's split down the middle. There's a huge rock right down from that same mountain. There's a huge rock that's split down the middle. There's also the altar that Moses and the Israelites made to sacrifice animals. There's so much evidence, interesting stuff.
You can see this is apparently Mount Sinai. There's video footage of all this. The top is still burned. Became a type of a volcanic glass like obsidian or something. It actually burned the rock. There's also apparently the altar that Aaron made with a golden calf. They made the golden calf on the altar, but on the side of the altar, they drew a picture of a calf or cow. Still there. God told Moses.
Okay, sorry. That altar is not the altar I was first talking about. That's the pagan altar that they made when Moses left to go up to Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments. The people were complaining that they haven't seen Moses in a while. He might have died. So they took gold and made a golden calf, and they started worshiping this statue. They started worshiping this golden calf. And when you go there today, they still have this big rock where a statue would have stood on top of it, and there's carvings all over it. This is what he's talking about here. But also there's another altar which the Israelites did themselves that they were supposed to do.
Moses to smite the rock and water would come out. A lot of folks think this is the rock that Moses smote. That rock sticking up on that mountain is 5 stories tall. 50 feet to the top of that rock,
right there.
As tall as these trees around here. And it's split right down the middle. Footage. On both sides there are erosion marks. Water came pouring out of that rock. We have sulfur balls. I've got some here on the table. These are
So now this is Sodom and Gomorrah. When you read the Bible, you know that he rained down from heaven, and sulfur and brimstone, excuse me. Let's continue.
Actual sulfur balls from Sodom and Gomorrah. They're 99.9% sulfur, and they're burned out. These sulfur balls specimens were tested by Michael Bonilla, a friend of mine up in New York. He said they were 97.4% pure sulfur when he had them tested. Millions of these sulfur balls are over there, right in that one area. It literally rained burning sulfur. So hot that it took the bricks of the city and baked it into ash. No place else in the world has these phenomena. We've got hundreds of them in our museum out here. Sulfur balls from Sodom and Gomorrah.
So when you go to that specific place where Sodom and Gomorrah would have been today, there's a place where all these sulfur balls that the Bible explained had rained down from heaven, and nothing lives there. The Bible said that nothing would ever live there again. And to this day, nothing's there. With all these sulfur balls that you cannot find anywhere else in the world.
Another piece of strong evidence is that at the base of this mountain, an altar has been discovered. This would match what Scripture states in Exodus 24, 4 and 5, And Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. Then he got up early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain with 12 memorial stones for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men.
So as we see, this is not the same altar that the Israelites did in disobedience with the golden calf. This is the altar that God explained to do the proper sacrifice for him.
Of the tribes of Israel, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed bulls as peace offerings to the Lord. Now at the very base of this mountain are extensive remains of an altar and a complete system for animal sacrifice. There are corrals where the animals would have been kept and an altar at the front of it. There have also been discovered animal bones here underground.
Imagine that. So not only that you have the burnt mountain, that you have the stone that he hit, but you also have the altar that is right down from near the mountain. People now going there and they see it for themselves. There's a cave, Prophet Elijah, who went into a cave near the Mount Sinai, and that cave is also there. There's so much evidence out there. Now, if you know the story again of Moses, when they were leaving Egypt, they had to cross the Red Sea when Moses put his staff, and they had to cross the ocean on dry ground. And the Egyptians, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, said, you know what? I regret letting them go. I'm going to chase after them. And when Pharaoh and his men was crossing on the dry ground of the ocean, and when the last number of Israelites, the righteous people of God, came onto the dry land on the other side of the ocean, when the army of Egypt, when they were crossing on the dry ground, the ocean now came back together. God obviously released his protection, or released the force field, whatever it was that God uses. The ocean came on top of them and drowned the whole entire army. We have evidence. They're going down now into that same ocean, which we know is the Red Sea. Scuba divers are going down into the ocean of the Red Sea. This is old, huh? Going down into the ocean, going down into the Red Sea, and they're finding coral that was built on top of these shaped like wheels, like chariots that the horsemen obviously would have been on. Wheels, shape of wheels that now have coral on them. Where would these have come from?
In the area of Nueva Port, amazing evidence of coral growth on objects that look like old chariot wheels, axles, and so forth. It has been found on the shore across from Nueva Port, on the Saudi Arabian side, these same figures. So you can see in this video here, this amazing coral figures that look like axles, that look like chariot wheels, and they're just all strewn out as you go from Nueva out into the Red Sea, and then on the shore coming up out of the Red Sea.
And listen, guys, this is not some foo-foo research. These are some serious men, some serious archaeologists that are going out there and doing this, going out there with actual equipment to scan these things and to really properly study.
On the Saudi Arabian side as well. Now, you should know that coral doesn't grow in sandy areas. It must have rock or something solid to grow on. And this area where they crossed is just pure sand. So these figures are tremendous evidence of chariot wheels that would have come off from the Egyptians as they pursued the Israelites.
The last one I want to show you guys is the findings of Ron Wyatt. Ron Wyatt also found the Mount Sinai. This one is about the Noah's Ark. Okay, Noah's Ark, if anybody does remember, the man who was told to build a boat by God, bring 2 of every animal, and God sent the flood over the whole entire earth because of the wickedness of the times. And so this man, Ron Wyatt, wanted to find where can this boat be, or where can he can find the landing. And in the Bible, it specifically says the boat landed in the mountains of Ararat. And today, if you Google it, where Ararat is, it's in Turkey. So he took a plane or a helicopter and went and was surveying the whole entire land. And they found a weird boat shape like in the mountains of Ararat. And this is the exact picture here. They found this picture, and when they went there, when they saw this in the sky of the map or of the scannings that they were taking, They went down, took the debris of what was on the ground, and it was actually eroded wood all around that fixture that you see. Then they went from one tip to another tip, and it was the same length that the Bible was speaking about in the Bible. What's even crazier is that in that area, forget how far it is from that boat, but there's a town, right? There's a town in Turkey, in that area, that in the language in which the people speak is called the town or the city of 8. Now, if you know, the amount of people that were on the boat was Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives, which would make 8 people. And the town to this day, or from history, is called the town or the city of 8. They also found the anchor or the stone which they would have used to tie up to drop down outside of the boat to make the boat stay still, right? The anchor that you set on the bottom ocean floor. So don't tell me there's not enough evidence out there in the world still to this day, with all the destruction and pollution and everything, that God has his fingerprint all over. The Bible has its fingerprint all over the world. There's too much evidence out there. And that's just a few of the many. Listen, go search this yourself. Noah's Finding by Ron Wyatt. Go look up Mount Sinai's Finding by Ron Wyatt. Listen, man, it's endless evidence that is out there that proves the history. If you believe or not that the stories are real, the evidence is out there. I hope you enjoyed this video. We can't be afraid to show evidence that God is real, and we can't be afraid to say it. Even if you believe it or not, listen, I do. Keep your faith in motion.